All right, everybody, good morning. This is Ryan again. Today I'm not from my house. I'm actually from the Student Center. Welcome. Hope you guys are having a good morning. Today we're going to be talking about something that's actually pretty cool because it hints toward what we're going to be talking about at Fuel and talking about authority. You know, what authorities are in your life and how you fit into that role. So it's pretty important stuff, and especially during the times of today. So if you guys could turn with me to Romans 13. We'll be going through 1 through 10 of Romans 13, so I'll give you a little bit while we're waiting. Here's my journal. Yeah, I know you didn't know you were going to see my journal today. I didn't know I was going to show you. Boom, awesome, good. Welcome. Okay, you should be there by now. So I'm going to start and kind of do the same thing I did last time, where we're just going to break it up into little bits and pieces. So Romans 13:1, we'll start there. All right. Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong. Do you want to be free from the one in authority? Then do what is right, and you will be commended. For the one in authority is God's servant for good. Okay, think about that for a second. We're going to chew on that for a bit. So think of the authorities in your life. Authority is a big word for who is in charge, all right? So you've got, just in your immediate circle, your parents, right? Then you got teachers. If you're on a sports team, you've got coaches. Whoever's in those authority, we've got superintendents and the principal and everybody in the office. And then you go one step above, we got the mayor of your town, right? Then you go one step above, you've got the governor of the state, and then you've got everybody in Congress, and then you got the president, and then it just there's so many people who are put on authority in your life, right? From the very, very top all the way down to your parents, and sometimes even your older siblings when the parents are out of the house, which is unfortunate. I know it can get rowdy sometimes. But everybody's put in charge of you. And in those times, it can really suck because they don't always seem like they're doing the best. Like, they make mistakes. Sometimes there's unjust laws put in place, both in the United States and in your own home. My parents had their own set of rules that I thought was just kind of unfair and didn't make sense. And I wanted to just disobey them, right? It seemed stupid. I didn't understand why they were there. But growing up, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do my own thing. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense because there are things in the Bible that those make sense, but the human authorities don't necessarily make sense sometimes. So we can get on a mind track of, I'll follow this, but not those. I'll make my own thing. Well, Paul says something different, and I don't necessarily like it all the time, but it's in here, so I have to live by it. And he says that every authority has been put in place by God. So that's every one of those, from your parents all the way up to the president, is put there by God. Not necessarily God went, okay, this exact person is going to be in this spot. Like, God said, okay, I'm going to allow this to happen. Nothing happens here without God's say-so. Doesn't mean every little thing that happens is good. We all know that there's bad in the world, right? But everything you do, like breathe in, breathe out. You only did that because God allowed that. That is no different from the people who are put in power, right? Doesn't mean they always make the right decisions or godly decisions, but they are put there because God allowed it to be. As it says here, let me find it again 1 second. The authorities that exist have been established by God. So there's no question that they're there, which then the only thing that we have to ask ourselves is, are we going to be willing and able to not agree with, but do what they tell us to do? It's a tough choice. It's really clashing. And you've got to wrestle with that yourself. Because on one hand, they're human, but on the other hand, they are presented there by God. It's really hard. But as we keep going, it starts to get a little less foggy. I left off at, we'll start at verse 4. For the one in authority is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for the rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. They are God's servants, agents of wrath to bring punishment on the wrongdoer. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not because of the possibility of punishment, but also a matter of conscience. This is saying that the punishments put in place for the laws, they're there for a reason. Because if you break a law, you're going to have a punishment for the law you broke. So Paul is saying, now not only is it a matter of God put it in place so you should do it as a matter of conscience, but it's also a matter of just don't get in trouble so you don't get punished. That's just part of the lifestyle that we're supposed to live. But the last part over here, I love. This is great. I'm going to skip down to verse 8. Let no debt remain outstanding except for the continuing debt to love one another. For whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. The commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not commit murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet, and whatever other command there may be, are summed up in this one command. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no harm to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. I just love that. I just love that. And the idea of love is thrown everywhere inside the Bible. It's part of the reason why that's one of the things I tattooed on my arm. Because it's so important in the life of Christians. Especially in this politically hazy environment where you'll get destroyed whether you're left or right or neither. There's no winning position. The only winning position is to submit to God's authority by submitting to the authorities at hand and showing love to everyone, no matter what position they have. So I don't know how much you guys keep up with politics. It's a destructive environment. So if you don't, great, good for you. Stay out of it. But if you do, you know that there's a lot of hatred being thrown on both sides. And the middle ground is just a battleground. Imagine just showing love to one another, not necessarily based on if you're on the same political side or not, but just because you're people. That can change so many lives. You have no idea. And even so, part of what Paul said here, and he said the commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal. Those are all the 10 commandments. Not all of them, but it's most of them. And then he says they're all summed up in just love one another. You take all of those and just put, hey, love, great, good job. Let's wrap. It's everything there. And it's great. That's all you have to do. But it's so tough and people don't do it. And in a world where there's so many authorities in your life, if you just show love to the people around you and to those in authority by submitting what they do, submitting to what they tell you to do, the world can be changed. I promise you. It's tough. So wrestle with that. It's a hard set of things to wrap your head around and actually live by. And trust me, I'm not perfect at all. Like this is a thing that I struggle with too. Submitting to authority, especially when people make mistakes. That's one of my struggles. So I'm not going to claim to be perfect in this aspect, but that does not change what it said in here. So wrestle with that this week. And one last thing before we go I want you to just think about is how much your love can impact others, both in authority and outside of authority. Just think about that, because there's a reason Paul started to wrap up this whole statement with love. And I'm not talking about a gushy boyfriend-girlfriend love. You know what I'm not talking about. Come on. I know you. I'm talking about actual love that bonds people together. Because in a world of craziness that's happening right now, where whatever side you're on, you're wrong in the eyes of other people, love can break down walls and bring people together. Think about that for this week. Thank you for tuning in. This is Ryan Fullloaf coming at you from the Student Center at Maryville High School. High school? The church. My bad. All right, I'll catch you guys later.